সেখানেও দেখেন একটা ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড ছিল। You know this guy? I can tell from the picture of it from a distance. But I grew up knowing him. He is the founder of Bangladesh. Father of Bangladesh, Mujibur Rahman. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. His daughter is presently the president of or prime minister of Bangladesh. Presently, Sheikh Hasina. Sheikh Hasina.
Are you going to be here too for the hotel? Yes.
What time does it go?
That was one of my conditions. Then I really
And I had
distinguished guests and my young friends. On behalf of BLRC, Bengali Literary Resource Centre, I, Subrata Kumar Das, the Executive Director of BLRC, welcome you all to the inauguration of Presenting Bengali Literature in English project. Probably you all know that BLRC has been working for the community literatures. But at the same time, BLRC is trying to make a breeze with the Bengali community living in Canada and the Canadian literary community. We are happy that we do have many programs, many projects in mind, and one of the projects is going to be inaugurated today. Now, I'd like to request Adity Zahir to come to the microphone and conduct the program. Thank you for now.
I'd like to call Tasmina Khan to give us a brief introduction of our project tonight.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and all the readers, a very good afternoon to you all. Welcome you all to the long-cherished, we are all waiting for many days, and all the readers are also waiting for many days, especially the young readers for this inauguration program. So today we are going to inaugurate this book reading program that is presenting Bengali literature in English. So we have some missions for what we have arranged this program. This is actually we know that there are many young hearts, many book lovers who are really want to read books. They want to know about our own culture, our literature, and real Bengali way of life, which is quite impossible to get always here, living in far from our own country. But I believe that through this project, the presenting Bengali literature in English, they will get at least a bit of that essence. So our missions are to facilitate all members of Torontonian Bengali community and as well as the other communities to test the pure essence of Bengali literature, to make our young generation aware of our own rich literature and literary resources, to familiarize them with our great writers, authors, poets, and other legendary creations. They're all legendary creations. We want to make the required resources available for them to make our next generation familiar with Bengali literature, culture, and overall way of life. We want to spread out our rich literature among the readers of other cultures, communities, and nations. But how? So, to execute our dream, we have taken some initiatives to execute that. Like, BLRC has initiated this book reading program to execute their that mentioned project, that long-cherished dream. Firstly, we have arranged a schedule, like first Saturdays of every month, there's a time slot. The window is we will start from morning 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. The interested readers will come to the same place and they will collect their books, they will read the book, and they will write a review after reading the book. And they will submit the reviews, then they will submit the books as well in the next month to collect another book. And then the best 10 reviews will be published by BLRC, and then among them, the best 3 writers of those reviews will get monetary gifts, rewards. There will be excellent environment to exchange their books and literary views. They will talk about their reading experience, and on every setting, every Saturday, whenever we will meet here to exchange the books, there will be a reputed author to have discussion with. The books will be open for all, but for a specific age range, like 14 to 30, there will be some special arrangement, what I mentioned just now, that they will read, they will write reviews, the best 10 reviews will be evaluated, and then the best 3 writers will get rewards. So the pace of action is a 3-parted program. The first part, there will be only the readings and review writings, and then the second part, there will be the evaluation of the writings, and then the concluding ceremony with the best 3 review writers. So you see the schedule of book collection, that is the every first Saturday of every month, starting from the next month. And for this, all the program, all the project, I would like to thank specially on behalf of BLRC, I offer my wholehearted respect, gratitude, and thanks to Dr. Debashish Mridha, MD, who has patronized the program. I would like to thank Mr. Akbar Hussain, who is leading the project as the project director, and Shubrata Kumar Dash, who is the soul of BLRC's any activity, and my wonderful team members. Now I would like to introduce my team members to you all. My team members are very hardworking. They are working for the whole month to arrange these things, to organize all these things. And they will be working also the year round to execute BLRC's dream on presenting Bengali literature in English project. They are actually BLRC's inspiration to work for especially the specific age group. Now I will pronounce their names to call up on the stage, and my humble request to the audience, please put together your hands to encourage them. I would welcome first Adity Zahir. Suchana Bandhan. Hassib Karim. Marilyn Samantha Pandey. Suity Roy. Masuda Jabin. Zahir. Suchana Chaudhary. And Aninda Das. So On behalf of my team members, I apologize in advance to all for any inconvenience or any shortcomings you feel. Any suggestion will be appreciated. Please put together your hands once again to encourage these tender souls.
Hassib Karim to begin his game of Kahoot.
You can open up your phones and do that. You can connect to the library Wi-Fi to do that. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Let me just open it over here. How do you spell Kahoot? K-A-H-O-O-T. Okay, so put in that code. We have 49534446. So put in the code into your phone. It's gonna ask for a code. And then it's gonna ask you for what name you would like to go by. So you can put nickname or whatever you would like. Okay, we got one person, 2 people. Come on, guys. I know it's not just 2 people that wants to play. There's prizes, guys. We got books that we're giving away for the top 10. I think we're ready for one more, right? Is that good? We're gonna start. And you have 30 seconds for each question. There's 10. The writer of the national anthem of Bangladesh. No, you guys are fast. So we'll just skip to that. Okay. Question. What book brought Rabindranath Tagore the Nobel Prize? Okay, next. Wow, you guys all got it right. Who's the writer of the epic? I can't pronounce that. Okay, has everybody? Which character has made Satyajit Roy legendary? Tani, Vector, or Hilda? Creator of Mizir Ali. Okay, so after this loads, I'm going to start calling up the top 10. Let's see. For first prize. And then pick any book and you get the book, take the book out of the picture.
All the winners who are coming to pick the books, please do not leave the stage area as we'd like to take a picture with all of you with our team.
Second place, Encore. Also your name's wrong, sorry about that. Take a look. Aftab. The books are different, so we're doing it in order. B. AK. That's good, that's good. Pick a book, any book. After is DB. 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 Good choice. Next one, Kunal. Kunal. Oh, wait, and the book underneath. Book underneath also. Next. Is that in the back? And 7th place, Kunal. Wait, no. I already called that. Sorry. 9th place, Anindya. And 10th place, Zahra. Good job, guys.
Thank you, Hassib, for that super fun and entertaining game. Now, I'd like to call upon stage.
Just for the pictures.
Could you please push one chair?
I forgot to call Mr. Akbar Hussain, the chair of this project.
Right.
Thank you for being with us here today, Jenna. We have Parthik and Debal. Oh, who's not here today? Sorry. Then we have Dr. Jenna McCarty, a professor at Ryerson University who joined the Department of History in 2013 as a historian of South Asia after completing his PhD from the University of Michigan. We have with us Beatrice. She's a poet and a literary translator. She was president of the Literary Translators Association of Canada, author of several poetry collections. She's a respected literary editor and was one of the publishers of Quattro Books, a Canadian small press based in Toronto. And we have finally with us Dr. Debashish Mridha, the patron of the project. Dr. Debashish Mridha hails from Michigan. He's an American philosopher, a philanthropist, a physician, a renowned author. We are incredibly grateful to him for helping us realize this project. Thank you. And finally, we have with us Mr. Akbar Hussain, who is the director of this project. I request Mr. Hussain to begin the next phase of this program. Thank you.
On behalf of BLRC, I again welcome you all, distinguished guests, our young participants, and the audience. The project presenting Bengali literature in English is an ambitious endeavor we have ever made, thinking that Bengali literature has a rich tradition for a few hundred years, or maybe 1,000 years, I should say. We have great writers who contributed so many things to enrich our literature, our social picture, and our intention is to bring those treasures now available in Bengali to our generation who are born and brought up outside the Bengali culture, whose Bengali may not be very fluent like me and other Bengali speaking people, but we want that the beautiful things we have in our literature can be transmitted to them for their own satisfaction and to also enlighten them. We know that translation may not be able to translate the human emotions, which is the fundamental place where we place our ideas and our tears and joys, but translation can definitely bring the genesis, I would say, the beginning point of human endeavor to survive in this society. And if we can transmit those ideas to a little bit even, that would enlighten our young generation. And this project, as we have taken, is not only for our Bengali children born and brought up outside, that is also for the general public who are interested in literature but cannot speak Bengali. So these books, you see hundreds of books we have gathered here. It's an amazing collection, and it has got so many different ideas of life, the way the writers presented their views of everyday life in Bengal. And those ideas are universal, as I think the literature is the mirror of a society, and society has a message there, which is unity in diversity. And that universal message is available in every literature written in any language. So this philosophical aspect of the literature should be shared from our Bengali literature as well. As you know that we have Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore, and who is well known and known universally for his humanistic ideas and his thoughtful ideas of human life. And he presented an universal picture of human society and thoughts. And I welcome all of you to participate in this program and read those books as we have in English translation form here. And those will definitely make you happy. And anyone who cannot speak Bengali but know English will also be able to have a glimpse of ideas how we have presented our literature for the last more than 1,000 years. And that is the view, and if we expect that if you go through all these books, our dream of having a congenial society will be much achieved through our personal understanding and our uniform ideas of the human society. Thank you very much.
At many, many meetings across the city and across the country, and certainly at the city, we are acknowledging the land that we are on. And I want to acknowledge that we are on the sacred land of the indigenous peoples. It was the territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and the Patron First Nations, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of the New Credit. The territory was the subject of the Dish and One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and the Confederacy of the Ojibwa. We are, of course, as English speakers, not the first peoples of this country, and we must always acknowledge that we all are here to share our languages and our cultures, because this is about building a country that is, to many, almost a social experiment, Canada. And I had the opportunity to travel to a big city conference in Denmark a couple of years ago, and people kept asking me, how is it that you are building this incredible city in Toronto? And I always have to say, we are building a city because we are welcoming, we are sharing, we are valuing, and we are respecting the newcomers who arrive in our city. And I want to say, I am delighted about this project. I only learned about it today. I look so forward to being able to read the famous poets, the famous authors, of the Bengali culture. And I know that the Bangladeshi community is so important in my community, and I struggle as I listen at many of the cultural events to understand the poet, the song, what is being read or expressed through your culture. And often it is, for me, an interpretation of the emotion that I see and that I hear. So thank you so much. I think sharing your culture in English will build new bridges in this community and strengthen our efforts to understand each other's cultures. So I also understand your interest and the value in making sure your children continue to understand the traditions and the deep, deep cultural roots that they have. I want to say I have been working with a group called the OTIMLDM, which is a group that is committed to building an International Mother Language Day monument here in Toronto. And I know the value that you place on language in the Bangladeshi community. I know the incredible significance that Bengali played in your history and the language movement that led to your independence. It's also very important to me. I'm an early childhood educator, and I know that learning first language and acquiring new languages are absolutely connected. So I know that many of your children speak Bengali very well and understand it very well, but I know it's a challenge to write and to read, to continue to have those skills. And this project clearly will assist your children in not only understanding the great writers and the literary tradition you have, but it will help them maintain that incredible sense of pride that you have in your cultural roots. So I don't know what much else to say about it, but reading and in general, keeping our children reading and reading great literature and great poetry is something that we promote at the city through our libraries, and I do think it's wonderful that you're here in the Albert Campbell Library. I was on the library board for many years. These buildings are intended to value literacy, to value community, and to bring people together to celebrate both. So thank you for being here also in one of our great Toronto public libraries.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call upon Dr. Jenna McCarty.
And I'm so happy to be a part of this extremely interesting initiative of bringing English language Bengali translations into the Bengali community in and around Toronto. I think it's an extremely important effort in terms of our intergenerational understandings in the Bengali community. I should say even that concept of Bengali-ness to me is one that in my own life is a very complicated issue. I was born myself in New York. My father had left Bengal in the 1950s. And so I was born an American citizen. My father, like many of that first wave of refugees, was leaving very difficult times, the 1940s in Bengal, which since has become the focus of my own research work in history, and which I've written about extensively, a period of dislocation, a period of conflict, a period of the Great Famine, which really wrote a tremendously deep also script into the Bengali culture. My own childhood, however, my father didn't bring a lot with him. Even in terms of what he imparted on me, he really imagined, as many of those first wave of refugees did, a new life, divorced from history, divorced from the kind of mother culture he had come from, and was bent on making himself a modern man in a modern world, which meant that you would kind of make yourself according to your own career choices far away, etc. And as such, my literary reference points were growing up Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, finally Fyodor Dostoevsky, Eugene Ionesco, John Faulkner, John Fante, Charles Bukowski. And I myself became deeper and deeper interested in literature, and particularly in stories, and in my own sense of American identity, really thought of stories as being something related to that deep sense of identity. All those years of my childhood and young adulthood, what I knew of Bengal were these very thin and sketchy stories of my father's own childhood in Bengal, both in Khulna, in Shatkhera district of Khulna, where my family had come from originally, as well in the very conflicted colonial city of Calcutta, the city of my father's childhood. And I had heard these stories of famine, certainly, of Japanese bombing during the 1940s, of movements from the city back to the countryside in Khulna, and the richness of the land in Khulna. And in much of my childhood, these stories meant very little to me. I had my own understandings of catching salmon in the Great Lakes by the time I was a teenager, etc. The NBA was my passion, and I wanted to be a professional basketball player. But I also wanted very much to write, and started my young adulthood as a writer, looking for stories, looking for adventure in my own life, and ways of turning those into the great American stories that I had based my understanding of literature on. Through many years of exhausting the gamut of this American life, those very thin and kind of ghostly stories of my father's that I had heard in my childhood on so many nights began intriguing me as stories as such. And I traveled myself then to Bengal as an adult. I didn't know a word of Bengali. I couldn't certainly read Bengali. I had not met my family, Bengali family. And so everything was new. And I spent the next 10 years of my life in deep research about the culture, society, and particularly history of Bengal, and particularly becoming increasingly interested in that period of history in the 1940s, that period of history that was my father's childhood. And I've been through then, so many years of archival research reconstructing this period of time, and then the post-colonial period of time. And I now teach South Asian history and other kind of Asian histories. Much of my research also involved speaking with those elderly people in Bengal who had survived from those times. Some of these being my uncles and aunts, some of them being associates and contacts of theirs. And I also began getting a deeper and deeper kind of picture of the richness of that history, of survival in Bengal, and of the great diversity of human spirit in Bengal. Diversity, of course, of the demographics, but also a great and tremendous diversity of spirit. I taught myself to read and write and to speak and understand Bengali, but to be frank, reading Bengali is certainly the most difficult aspect of all. The kind of written word, and particularly classical Bengali, is quite difficult, even if you're fluent in speaking Bengali. But through my struggles being able to read somewhat, I've also availed myself of the English language translations of Bengali literature. And apart from the history and the interpersonal understandings that I've gained from individuals and from family members, really Bengali literature is so incredibly deep, complex. It represents a panoply of human emotions, of human experiences, of environmental realities. So a book like that's there, Sons of the Seas, Harishankar Jaladas, which tells of the fishing communities of Chittagong. But also you have the literature related to the 1940s and 50s, that era of great struggle to overcome the colonial past, and the great literature of the 1970s, much of it very experimental and very important in world literature in many ways. And the Bengali literature, as far as understanding the sentiments of the Bengali people, the realities socially, interpersonally, is really an almost inexhaustible resource to me as a historian. And I think to second generation Bengalis and even first generation Bengalis who are removed from their kind of mother tongue in terms of reading, the capacity to read in translation is just a great gift, and I really look forward to being part of this project in the future. I think it is greatly enriching to the community here in Toronto, and also hopefully in support of translation of Bengali works more broadly, which I think is a very important mission in international literature. I think Bengali literature represents a truly unique and diverse and complex and very important school of literature. And so the more people who are reading within the Bengali community, the more that will also germinate an understanding abroad, outside of Bengal, of the importance of Bengali literature. And I wish this program great success, and as I say, quite happy to be a part of it also.
And for sharing your words. Now I'd like to call upon Ms. Beatrice to share her story.
I came as what we were known as immigrants in those days, in the 1970s, and it was very moving to me today to come here because Warden was the last station on the subway for where we used to live here in Scarborough, and I first started to go to the library to read translations of and books in my original language, in my language of origin, Spanish, at the Scarborough Public Library. So everything comes around. Like most children of immigrants, first-generation immigrants, I was kind of an interpreter and translator from very early on. I grew up in the home of two artists. My mother is a painter, my stepfather is a Chilean poet. And so very early on, I was indoctrinated into Spanish and Spanish-American literature, and as I became more and more conversant in these cadences and so on, and I finished and did a degree in Spanish and French literature at the University of Toronto, it became evident to me that there were many values in these literatures that we brought with us to Canada, and that my stepdad exemplified, that needed to be translated and be known to Canadian readers. And so very soon after I finished my degree, I became a translator. I began to translate literature and I began to translate those writers that resonated with me and that meant a lot to me in my home and in my culture. And nobody can live in Canada from literature, so as soon as I graduated from the University of Toronto, I became a clerk at the Toronto, what used to be known as the Metro Reference Library. Later on, I have a complicated history where I became a librarian as well. But in any case, to make a long story short, it was translating these extraordinary, mostly Chilean and Latin American surrealist poets that I became a writer. That was my literary education. And all along, I thought, Toronto, really, Canada, should really be a center of international literature in translation. We should be in Canada a center of publishing of literature in translation, but we are not. And we are not for many, many reasons which really merit an entire conference, so I'm not going to dwell on them. Among those reasons is the definition of what it is to be a Canadian writer, or what it is to publish a Canadian book, and how those things are funded and disseminated and collected and read. So fast forward from the 1970s, 80s, and 90s to Wednesday of this week, when I got an invitation from Mr. Surbata Das to come here to speak to you. And the description of the program that he sent me in the email with an amazing video of all these wonderful young people who seem to have initiated this project seem to me to be the exact summation of everything that I've always envisioned for literature as a Canadian writer. First of all, the project gives validation to the notion that as newcomers or as immigrants, we bring with us not just our hands to labor with, or our minds and to think with or to do things with, but we bring with us, and very importantly, our literary culture, our literary heritage. We don't come empty of our heritage, including writers who are writers when they immigrate here, and they're expected to be Canadian writers and with nothing behind them. This is a very strange concept of Canadianness. So we do not come empty, in other words, of our collective imagination. And so what we bring to us, to Canada, is precisely this particular value. And it is so important that it be available to us in its original language, and in your case in Bengali, but also in translation. Making our literatures available in English and in French, because we're a bilingual country, is essential, not just to pass on the legacy that we bring with us to our children, to second generation Canadians as you are here organizing this incredible event, but we also make it available to the larger public of Canada. And this is very important to us. The other very essential part to me as a writer and as a member of the Canadian literary community is that bringing literatures in translation, especially a literature as deep and as old and as meaningful as Bengali literature, would be very enriching for Canadian writers. If it were available throughout in fantastic books, imagine what Canadian literature would gain from it. This is the part that, to me, I mean, I spend a lot of my time in a kind of rage, you know, about all the things that don't get done. But this is a thing that I think that you are contributing to our Canadian literary culture, to the future of our Canadian culture. And so what I say to you is, we need this. We need to be more diverse in this way. We need to assimilate more influences, more cadences, more sounds, more images from other things that we bring into what it is to be a Canadian. And so to finish with you, because I see that many of you will hopefully become our future translators and our future authors, I say take this opportunity and show Canadians what a wonderful and rich literary heritage you bring with you, and you're making available to your community and to your friends and to your people and to us. And also, as a member of the literary community, I'd like to say that I thank people like you, and I thank Subrata Das for inviting me today. I thank the Literary Resource Centre that you've brought together, because you're accomplishing with this project nothing short of a possible transformation of Canadian letters into something grand and lovely and significant.
Thank you, Ms. Huesner. That was an incredible story. I was lost for a moment. Then I came back. Now I'd like to call upon stage. He's already on the stage. See, I'm lost. I'm still thinking about your story. I'd like to call upon the microphone Dr. Debashish Mridha. Thank you.
I'd like to say, wow, wow, wow. Such an incredible project and such an incredible audience. Some of you are readers, some of you are writers, and some of you are our future leaders. And such an incredible city, with lovely welcoming city, Toronto. It's magical, is not it? Give them a big hand, please. Come on. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank BLRC for undertaking such a great project, such a wonderful project. I really help them. I know BLRC got more than 290 290 English translation of Bengali books. Actually, I never had ideas that we have so many incredible writers and their writings are translated in English language. I was talking to some of my friends here and I mentioned that I never wrote most of these books. Most likely I am one of the most ignorant person. It was very interesting. I had a few thoughts last night. I was thinking about, actually last night, Mr. Subrata Kumar Dash mentioned me, I have to say something here. Then I was thinking what I can say. First, I would like to say that it is an incredible project, and I would like to thank you, Subrata Kumar Dash, who is the energetic, passionate, and incredible leader of BLRC. I would like to thank and mention about Mr. Akbar Hussain, who this project, this reading project, is one of the brainchild of Mr. Akbar Hussain, and he is the project director. I like to thank. Either way, it's the brainchild. I would like to thank all the members, all the board of directors, all the volunteers, all the supporters and helpers, and all the audience for inviting me to participate in this project. Thank you again, Mr. Subrata Kumar Dash, for invitation. Thank you. Literature is one of the best instruments that can create unity in diversity. Toronto is one of the most diverse cities in the world, one of the most beautiful and incredible city of the world. And here we have to create unity, and literature can help us with that. We like to melt in this diverse city, in this diverse society with our uniqueness, and literature can help us in this process. At the same time, we want our future generation to know and learn where we came from, how we express our thought, feelings, and emotions. You know, I have a daughter. She's 13 years old, and often I feel very sad when I realize that she will not be able to understand songs of Tagore. When I realize that she will not be able to read Tagore's poetry. It is such a sadness for me. But when I see this kind of project, this project will be instrumental to help her to read Tagore in a great way and understand all other authors in Bengali language who wrote, but we have translation to understand them. Thank you again, thank you very much for this project. I would also like to say that because of social media, social networking now, this project, which is brainchild of Toronto, is not only here. I already got phone call from Australia, from India, from other part of the world that they like to do similar kind of project. And it starts all from Toronto, all from this BLRC. Give them a big hand. Thank you. Literature opens our window of imagination, sharpens the nerve endings of our perception, deepens our feelings, and enhances the excitement of our emotions, and fills our heart with flowing river of joy. We want our future generation to feel this kind of joy. We want our children to read the literature that will bring this kind of joy. Now that the English translation of great Bengali authors is available, our children will be able to experience all this kind of wonderful feelings. True literature is a beautiful symphony of life played by greatest artist of the world with the instrument of paper, pen, and language. The instrument of love for this Bengali writer is the Bengali language. Now both Bengali and English reader will able to enjoy this work of great Bengali authors. A great writers spread the ripples of love, joy, sadness, thoughts, imagination throughout the world over the boundaries of borders and times. With the accomplishment of BLRC, we can spread great literature, especially great Bengali literature, throughout the world. I hope that this project will help the next generation to glow their own luminous light of love, gratitude, imagination, and creativity. I really love what you are doing. I feel a river of joy in my heart. I just came here to say, I love you. I just came here to say, I really do. I wish great success for BLRC. I wish great success for this reading project. I think this project will be emulated by many creative people all over the world to spread the message of unity, peace, and harmony, as well as diversity. Thank you. Thank you very much.
For your kind words. I'd like to thank you again because we're very grateful for your contribution in helping us realizing this project. Now, in the beginning of this program, I mentioned a person's name, Parthi Khandeval. I truly believed he would be here today, and you see, he is. So now I'd like to call up on stage Mr. Parthi Khandeval, who is a very popular trustee of the Toronto District School Board and the current Vice President of the Ontario Public School Board Association.
Please pardon my lateness. I was at another event. The weekends can get busy. First of all, I'd like to start off by acknowledging the land that we're on is not our land, it's the land of the First Nations. And I know we all here acknowledge whether we came 100 years ago or 10 years ago, this land belongs to the Indigenous people of this country. It's very nice to come to Albert Campbell Library. When my parents, we came here as refugees 30 years ago, this was the library that I would come once a week, twice a week, very often. We were living in Kennedy and St. Clair. My mother still does. It's 1988, almost 30 years ago. So this library is very special for me. So when Suchana invited me to come, I made it a point to definitely be here, just to reminisce. And I'd like to take this moment to thank Suchana and the team that's putting this together, because preserving language into the second generation is something not only the Bangla community is thinking about, but all communities that come from different cultures to Canada. And I know that's something that I think about. And this project, as a result, is very incredibly important. And perhaps I'll speak why it's important. I think the first generation, the speakers, the writers, the authors already know the importance of language. But our generation that grew up here, we may ask the question why. We live in Canada, we work in Canada, we speak English, mostly if we're not in Quebec or parts of Ontario. Why should we preserve our language? And when you're young, you may not realize it because you're speaking to your friends in English, you go to university, college, you're speaking in English, you enter the workplace. And it's such a diverse country, city. You may not see the need. But what I've found, and I can share perhaps as somebody in between generations to the young people, is that you have a gift. And it's a very important gift because you are at a time you have one foot in your cultural world and you have another foot in the mainstream, whatever you want to call it, Canadian or English-speaking world. And sometimes it feels like a challenge, it feels like a struggle to balance the expectations, the lifestyle of your parents, of your culture, and that of what is considered to be the mainstream. But why I say it's a gift, because you're discovering and creating a new world. And the correlation with the literature that's presented here, as I was picking up some of the books and looking at them, if you look at authors, poets like Tagore, and other ones that wrote at a time when India or Bangladesh was becoming a new country, a new world, it's a very interesting comparison, because there was an opportunity, a time when a revolution was happening to unshackle the chains of colonialism and the power that was governing what is now considered South Asia, and a new world was being created. But with the new world comes new challenges, because you're leaving a colonial power thousands of miles away into a new country. Similarly, the youth of our communities are going through a similar revolution of looking at new ways of culture, new ways of being. But part of that is connected to our language, our culture, and our traditions. So the youth of the Bangla-speaking community, but really of all communities that are looking to preserve their language, my advice is to learn your language, to learn how to read the literature, which is the real value beyond just speaking to your parents in Bangla or in whichever language. The real value is taking the core out of the literature, whether it's poetry, fiction, non-fiction. And, you know, to make a comparison, you know, we all probably like mangoes, right? I mean, but it's always better to eat a ripe mango. And I think that's the beauty of going beyond just reading and writing and talking, but understanding the literature, the value that comes out of it. And you know, we'd all like perhaps like to drive cars. It's always nice, if you could, to drive a Ferrari, I would imagine, right? So the similarity is that the value we derive to the richness of our life from literature is tremendous, especially at a time when the young people are going through a phase where they have to develop a new identity. And that's something that's been on my mind a lot when I see how Scarborough in particular, which has been home to not only Bangla-speaking communities, Gujarati, Tamil, Punjabi to some extent, and you're seeing these communities now grow and develop into second, third generations. And I think this is a very important thing. At the Toronto District School Board, we offer language instruction. We have Bangla classes at Crescent Town, at Oak Ridge, Lord Roberts, and other languages as well. So it's an important relationship, not just within a community, but also the government, that you as citizens pay taxes to support, that they reflect the identities and the values and the cultures of our community. And that's what we try to do at the Toronto District School Board. We celebrate different cultures, and we offer free language instruction in the dominant languages of a community. So again, thank you Sabatabai for inviting me, and my best wishes for this incredibly, incredibly important project, and I really hope the youth of the community take this on. Parents, you have to push them, you have to force them. They won't appreciate it until 15 years later, 20 years later, but make them do it, and we'll provide support from the school board side to promote this project. Thank you.
I'd like to make one small announcement. When we were announcing the list of our volunteer names, one name was missed. So Anana Shurjarafa, can you please come on stage? She has been with us from the...
It's actually really fine, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Rafa. I'd Now I'd like to call Mr. Akbar Hussain to formally inaugurate the beginning of this program, of the book sharing.
It's a great honor, and with respect, I thank all my special guests here for their very enlightening address and their thoughts, which will definitely encourage us to make this project a success in the future. And with this, I announce that the project is open for the public right now. Thank you.
For me, one for two of my children.
Yeah, because there was also my college too. One of the
Yeah, it's like a secret that people don't know.
because they have their
Yes, but I know a lot. Like I know almost everybody.
but I was
So what should I take? Like this is I think a book of stories. But I'm I know. Yeah, right. You must have been a very Was your family affected?
BLRC আজকে যেই বাংলা সাহিত্য ইংরেজি ভাষায় পড়ার যেই প্রকল্প হাতে নিয়েছে, বিশেষ করে আমাদের এদেশের প্রথম প্রজন্মের ছেলে মেয়েদের জন্য, এটা একটা অনবদ্য অনন্য একটা ভেঞ্চার আমি বলবো। এর মাধ্যমে ওরা একদিকে যেমন এই ক্যানাডিয়ান সোসাইটিকে তারা তাদের কোর থেকে ট্রেজার এনে এখানে কন্ট্রিবিউট করতে পারবে, এবং বাংলার তাদের ফোর ফাদার্সদের তাদের যে শিকড়, সেই শিকড়ের প্রতিও তাদের থাকবে চরম ভালো লাগা, এবং আমি বলবো এক ধরনের ইমোশনাল অ্যাটাচমেন্ট। এই জিনিসটা কখনোই বিযুক্ত হবে না। এই প্রকল্প আমাদেরকে সেই সুযোগ এনে দিয়েছে। আমি এই প্রকল্পের সার্বিক সাফল্য কামনা করি।
আমি এখানে এসেছি কেবলমাত্র আমার বাংলা ভাষার প্রতি যে শ্রদ্ধা এবং মায়া, এই জন্য অনেক দূর থেকে প্রতিকূল আবহাওয়া সত্ত্বেও আসার পরেও এখানে যোগদান করতে পেরেছি, এবং বিভিন্ন ভাষা বিশেষজ্ঞ এবং এখানে যারা ভাষা প্রেমিক লোক থেকে আমি অত্যন্ত আনন্দিত। আশা করি এই প্রজেক্ট অত্যন্ত ভালো চলবে, এবং আমরা যারা অন্তত বাংলাদেশি এবং বাঙালি, বাংলাদেশের বাঙালি বলেন আর পশ্চিমবঙ্গের বাঙালি বলেন, সবাই যদি আমরা আসি এবং এই বাংলা ভাষাকে শ্রদ্ধা করি, বিশেষ করে আমাদের বাচ্চা কাচ্চা এবং প্রজন্ম যারা আছে তাদেরকে যদি উৎসাহিত করি আমাদের বাংলাদেশের ইতিহাস বাংলায় লেখা না হয় ইংলিশে লেখা আছে, তখন তারা এটা বুঝতে পারবে অত্যন্ত ভালো। এবং সেই সঙ্গে আমি অনুরোধ করব সবাইকে যাতে আমরা একটু সপ্তাহে একদিন না হলেও অন্তত মাতা পিতা যারা আছে আমাদের দায়িত্ব হিসাবে একটু বাংলা যাতে আমরা শেখানোর চেষ্টা করতে পারি। আর আমি আশা করব এই প্রোগ্রাম অত্যন্ত সফলতা অর্জন করবে, এবং এটাকে আরও প্রচারের জন্য কর্তৃপক্ষকে বিশেষ করে যারা এখানে এটা ব্যবস্থা করেছেন তাদেরকে আমি অনুরোধ করব। এবং অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ। সবাই ভালো থাকুন এবং সবার মঙ্গল কামনা।
আমি এক্সাইটেড, আমি খুব খুশি। আজকে একটা বই পেয়েছি আমি, যে গীতাঞ্জলি, যেটা আমার প্রাণের বই। এটার থেকে অনেক কিছু আমার ছেলে অনিন্দ, তাকে আমি বলাবো, সেটাই আপনার। থ্যাংক ইউ।
I really like this initiative to promote the Bengali literature by translating it into English, and I guess it'll encourage the young people here to read Bengali literature, get to know about Bangladesh.
I think I'm gonna learn a lot from this project. I'm gonna learn a lot from Bengali culture and what Rabindranath Tagore what he wrote.
Okay, I am very happy to bring my kids here in this Bengali literature project. This will be a very enthusiastic project, I guess, that our kids can learn something about our own language, Bengali, and our great poets, their feelings, their great writing. They can know the life that Bengali people deal with at home, and their history and different culture, Bengali culture, and all through they can go through all this, reading all these writings from great poets and great writers from Bengali literature like Rabindranath Tagore, Islam, and Shumin Gangopadhyay, so many big writers in Bengali culture. So I hope that will be a great achievement for, as a parent, for that our kids are get some knowledge that can change the life of our kids. He's in grade 7, and Anirban is in grade 2, grade 3. So they have 2 kids. They are very interested to come every month in this project and get their books in English by Bengali writers. Thank you.
That's very encouraging. আমি তো বললাম Dr. Mukherjeeকে, actually his analogy or his experience is the best ever to actually encourage other people, particularly the newer generation, as he has explored the 1940 to 50. Our newer generation possibly will explore it in the 1970s of the war of liberation. How their roots are being enthroned. Actually, that's very encouraging. This project.
5 years it has been like a new children hall. And before that we met. And our friend, what is her name?
It's amazing. You get all these local writers talking about Bengali literature that is really hard to access in Canada. So it's the idea of a lending library is like, as far as I'm concerned, is revolutionary. I would never have the chance to read any of this stuff for a project like this.
Still in the same house. She didn't like it. So we got rid of it and we came back and we are in the process of planning.
আমি একবার ভাবছিলাম আসবো না, আপনার শনিবার বৃষ্টির মধ্যে শ্যামল অনেকটা জোর করে নিয়ে আসলো। শ্যামল আনলো অঙ্কুরকে, আমাদের একমাত্র ছেলে, বাংলা বলতে পারে কিন্তু বইয়ের প্রতি আগ্রহটা কম। আমার কাছে সে মনে হলো যে খুব একটা ক্ষুধা হয় না, মানে বইয়ের প্রতি ক্ষুধা, মানে সাগর ধরে মনে হচ্ছে যে অনেকগুলো ছোটো 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 খাবার আছে, আপনি যেটা তুলে যেটা খেতে পারেন। 290টা বই ইংরেজিতে ট্রান্সলেটেড বাংলা বই আমার জানা ছিল না। চমৎকার একটা প্রজেক্ট এবং যারা যারা ইনভলভ অনুষ্ঠানের সাথে সবাইকে অভিনন্দন।
আচ্ছা, এই প্রজেক্টের ব্যাপারে আপনি যদি জিজ্ঞেস করেন, আমি যেটা বলবো যে আমি মনে করি বর্ণমালা হচ্ছে মানে মানুষের মানবিক অনুভূতিকে প্রকাশ করার একটা টুল হিসেবে আমরা জানি। এই বর্ণমালা বিভিন্ন দেশে জিওগ্রাফিক্যাল সীমানার কারণে বিভিন্নভাবে বিভিন্ন দেশে বিভিন্ন বর্ণমালা আছে। এখন একটা বর্ণমালাতে যখন একটা অনুভূতির প্রকাশ পায়, তখন সেটি আরেকটা ভাষাভাষী যারা সেই বর্ণমালাতে অভ্যস্ত, তখন আমাদের কি করতে হয়, একটা বৈশ্বিক একটা বন্ধনের তাগিদে আমরা এই বর্ণমালাকে রিপ্লেস করি আরেকটা বর্ণমালা দিয়ে, শুধু ওই অনুভূতিটাকে প্রকাশ করার জন্য। তবে এটি ঠিক হয়তোবা অনুভূতির যে ডেপথ, যে ডাইমেনশন হুবহু প্রকাশ না পেলেও কিন্তু আমরা আঁচ করতে পারি যে ওই অনুভূতিতে, ওই বর্ণমালার অনুভূতিতে কী আছে। তা আমি মনে করি যে বিএলআরসির এই যে প্রজেক্টটা, সেটি হচ্ছে একটা বিশ্বের যে মানবিক অনুভূতি, এই অনুভূতিটাকে আমরা যেন সবাই শেয়ার করতে পারি। সারা বিশ্বটা একটা অর্থাৎ গ্লোবাল ভিলেজ যেটা আমরা বলি, সেই গ্লোবাল ভিলেজের কনসেপশনের তাগিদে এটি বোধহয় সেই কনসেপশনের পূর্ণতা অর্জনে সহায়ক হবে, যে অন্তত ভাষা ভিন্ন হলেও আমাদের অনুভূতি এক। এটি আমার নিজের অনুভূতি।
বিএলআরসির উপরে যে আমি যদি এখন কথা বলতে চাই, তাদের এই যে পদক্ষেপটা, এই যে স্টেপটা, আমার মনে হয় এটা সাধারণভাবে আমরা নিলে চলবে না। আমাদের সমাজের প্রতিটি পরিবারকে, আমাদের লোকালিটির যে বাঙালি কমিউনিটি বিশেষ করে, তাদেরকে এগিয়ে আসতে হবে, উদ্বুদ্ধ করতে হবে তাদের সন্তান সন্ততিদেরকে। এদের মাধ্যমে যে রেনেসাঁ, যে উন্মেষটা হতে যাচ্ছে, এটা সুদূর প্রসারী। আমি এই বিএলআরসির এই পদক্ষেপকে সর্বান্তকরণে আমি ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি, সাধুবাদ জানাচ্ছি, এবং বিশেষ করে সুব্রতদার এই যে পরিকল্পনা, এটা ভাষায় বর্ণনা করা যায় না। পরবর্তীতে আমাদের জেনারেশন বহু গুণে উপনীত হবে এবং আমাদের কৃষ্টি, আমাদের সংস্কৃতি, আমাদের কালচার এর দ্বারা বহু দূর এগিয়ে যাবে। এটাই আমরা সবাই আশা করছি এবং একটা গভীর স্বপ্ন আমাদের মধ্যে যেটা লালিত হচ্ছে। আমি বিএলআরসির এই পদক্ষেপকে সাধুবাদ জানাই।
আমি মনে করি এটা খুবই সুন্দর একটা প্রোগ্রামের আয়োজন আপনারা করেছেন। এটার ভীষণই দরকার। আমি খুব উৎসাহিত বোধ করছি, কারণ আমার ছেলেকে আমি নিয়ে এসেছি, ওর 18-19 বছর বয়স। আমি সবসময় চেষ্টা করি ওর জন্য ইংলিশ ট্রান্সলেশনের বই খুঁজতে বাংলা সাহিত্যে, কারণ ও জানে না বাংলা পড়তে, জানে না বাংলা বলতে জানে। কিন্তু আমার মনে হয় যে এখন আমি অনেক বেশি নিশ্চিন্ত বোধ করবো, কারণ এই বিশাল একটা চয়েস আপনারা যে আয়োজন করেছেন এবং সব ছেলে মেয়েদেরকে নিয়ে আসছেন, এটা একটা অসাধারণ একটা প্রচেষ্টা। আমার অনেক অভিনন্দন থাকবে এটার জন্য।
This initiative is really important because the diaspora living here, the young people particularly, I was really impressed by the young people, the presence of young people in this program in such great number. I think half of us, the audience here is young people, and that is important, who have not even understood the language properly so far. Many of them are born here, some of them have come here much earlier on in their life when they didn't know their own language. But this initiative, even if they don't get their language fully, these translations which are there, they give them a good flavor of it. But primarily this is connecting with your own culture, your roots, and enriching this society where you're living in with your own contribution of your own cultural values. And literature is a great, I would say, it's a vehicle for that.
সবচেয়ে বড় কথা হচ্ছে 2002 সালের কথা বলছে, বেশি দিন আগের কথা, 15 ইয়ার্স। 2002 সালে একজন আইরিশ লোক বলছে, আমি বেশি বাচ্চা পছন্দ করি।
এখন যারা সাহিত্য পড়ে তারা যদি ভাবে প্রতিটা বাসে
And from that he went to America. Does it still come to say? Yeah. My name?
I think this is great. It inspires the younger generation to learn Bengali and to know more about their culture.
সুন্দর উদ্যোগ, কে করলো, কতজন লোক আসলো সেটা বড় কথা না, উদ্যোগটা কেমন সেটা দেখতে হবে। এবং যে কোনো মহৎ উদ্যোগই কোনো না কোনোভাবে শুরু হয়। এখন এই বই পড়ার আমাদের, বিশেষ করে আমাদের নতুন প্রজন্মের মধ্যে বই পড়ার যে আন্দোলন আজ শুরু হলো, সেটা অব্যাহত থাকুক, এটাই আমি কামনা করি।
Yeah, we'll be meeting. Yeah, we'll meet up. Yeah, we should.
We're also going to leave.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to meet you.